Let me now bring on board Mr. GV Prasad, Co-Chairman and Managing Director with Dr. Reddy. Mr. Prasad, fantastic to have you back on ET now. Thank you for joining us. Your stock and market reaction to the settlement of the generic version of Remlivid was quite exciting. I mean, the stock did cartwheel, shareholders got excited. So let me understand from your standpoint what it means for the company, both in terms of cash flow and the one-time settlement payment that will come.
Firstly, I can't comment on the stock price. The stock price reacts on many things. But in terms of news, we had some positive news in the last few days. The first one was tying up the vaccine with the Russians and Russian company and the RDIF deal, which will help us bring this product to India and distribute it in India. More than the financials there, I think the excitement of having a possibility of an early vaccine is a very big inspiration for us. The second deal, the Revlimid, is an important product for us. We've been on this product for many, many years now. I think we have a very good settlement with the innovator. I am not at, I cannot reveal the details of the settlement. It's under confidentiality. But what it does allow us is to enter early into the market, give us a sizable market share. And I certainly think it will be a significant product for Dr. Reddys.
Could you walk us through the size of opportunity because of Remlivid? Because there are more companies which in a sense could get approval to launch when you will also launch alongside the innovator in March 2022. Yeah. Do you think there is a chance and there is a case of more competition intensified and that will have impact on price also?
So there are settlements. NATCO has a settlement ahead of us. I think they will be the first to launch. Then we have Alvogen and us so far. So we have three, it's a three-player market at a minimum. And we don't know who else will come and at what point they'll come. So there are still some uncertainties, but be that as it may, I think it will be an attractive product for Dr. Reddys. It's a very large molecule. It has been growing and it is an attractive space to be in.
Suddenly your pipeline in US, Mr. Prasad, is looking extremely exciting. You've got a settlement for a big drug. You've got 3 more drugs which are coming. Is it just a coincidence or a cycle, or you think this is a clear indication of how improvement has happened to your US generic pipeline and business?
So this kind of pipeline cannot happen overnight. Revlimid, we started work in 2009. So it takes time for these opportunities to mature. The pipeline of today is a work of many, many years. So it cannot be magic pulling out of the hat or a 1 or 2 year effort. So it's a decade of hard work. It's a decade of focusing on difficult to make products, technologies, and they're all coming together. And certainly pleased with the way things are turning around, but it is not. It is a lot of hard work from many years. You will see that Revlimid was filed 6-7 years ago. The work started much earlier than that. We went through litigation. We got settlement in Canada and now settlement here. So the journey in these products is quite long. Whoever is better wins the game. That's how it is.
Okay. Markets are extremely excited about the tailwind which now has come for the entire pharma sector. Not just Dr. Reddy, but all pharma companies are enjoying their moment in the sun. In your assessment, Mr. Prasad, what has changed for pharma companies post-COVID? What was the headwind earlier, which is FDA approvals and pricing power, now has become the tailwind. FDA approvals are coming in and pricing power has come back. Is it only because of COVID or something else which markets were missing on and now they are realizing?
Yeah. So I think, generally markets tend to overreact. There was an overreaction when companies went through FDA troubles and some of them came out of it. There was an overreaction to the pricing pressures. Certain companies certainly were severely affected, but not all were affected in that level. I cannot comment on markets, how they work, but I can tell you what has happened to generate positivity in the industry. I think companies, especially in India, which had to go through some challenges of dealing with the FDA, have worked hard over the last few years, made the transformations necessary to make quality a primary driver of for the companies, and all those have bore fruit, and hence approvals are coming. Also, I think India is a country which is uniquely positioned to combine the skills in chemistry, the skills in formulation development, and the entrepreneurial approach towards taking up legal issues and testing the waters. So all of these, I think, are maturing as skills for the industry, and the industry is doing well. It's doing much better than our global generic compatriots who have unique issues of their own. But I do think India is well positioned to be a dominant force in the global generics industry, and that is showing. Just like the IT sector got its time at certain point in the past, I think everything is coming together for the industry now, and I think the industry is in a good phase, taking advantage of the various skills we have, the talent in India, and the investments that we have made in infrastructure, quality, and of course the research efforts, the pipeline.
What could be the impact of US presidential elections? Is this something which could have long-term implications if there is a change of, change of guard at the White House?
Either way, I think even if Mr. Trump wins or Mr. Joe Biden wins, I think there are changes imminent in the healthcare space in the US. I think there are many lessons learned in the recent past about how drugs were brought to the market, approved, how the whole system didn't work very well for the US government. So we can see changes coming in irrespective of who's going to occupy the White House. How it will impact the generic industry is not clear. Certain things, I think certainly biosimilars is an area where the US is lagging behind, and hopefully that will change. Already we saw in the UK that people are questioning the need for these expensive trials for a biosimilar, which is essentially a copy of the innovator product and analytically proven to be very, very similar. So spending 50 million, 100 million on biosimilar trials is a waste for society. That is what people are saying. So that's something I think could come up. There are other areas which could also help the generic industry. The generic industry is a solution here for the high cost of healthcare in the US. So we feel that whatever changes come in the US post-election will be in favor of generics. There is, of course, the headwind of wanting to have local supply chains, wanting to have local manufacture in many countries. How that will pan out, we have to see. But it also could be opportunity for Indian industries to globalize their manufacturing footprint.
Okay. Now, we've spent the first 10 minutes only talking about a business which is 45 to 50% of your total business, which is the US generic business. Let's talk about the next 50%, which is Russia and what's happening to India and other markets. Walk us through what's happening in your India business, which is stable, which is growing. Do you see locally there also, the per capita on healthcare is going to increase and pricing power and better drugs would be consumed now?
So one good thing about what happened during COVID is the industry has been recognized for its strategic importance. So the government thinks of the pharmaceutical industry in a very different way. Earlier, it was all about cost, controlling costs, bringing down pricing control order. This is all was the conversation. Today, I think India has helped many countries supplying COVID drugs. Indian healthcare system has been very appreciative of the speed with which we brought in drugs for COVID. So I think the perception of the industry has changed measurably, and that is a very positive for the industry. I think government has recognized that the industry needs some support in order for it to become much more innovative. Today, we are largely a generic industry. And I think there is a movement to support the industry in its innovation effort, whether it's the regulatory processes simplification, or whether it is engagement with the regulator, or the ease at which clinical trials are getting approved, or the speed with which they're getting approved. All of these bode well for the industry, and the industry, I think, is getting its rightful place by the government, and this is a positive for all of us. Coming specifically to Dr. Reddys, I think we still are not very happy with our position in the India market. We'll continue to focus on the India market, build it up, and both through organic and inorganic means, as well as innovation. The other emerging markets, of course, Russia is doing well, reasonably well, and we'll continue our focus there, introduce more products there, enter new segments such as tender markets, oncology, all those things which matter to the market there. And we'll continue our push in Russia. Apart from these, I think China is another focus area for us. The large population, the premium for innovation, all of these are important aspects. And we do have a good joint venture presence there, and we will improve the business there by putting in more products, more therapeutic areas, and more partnerships. Apart from that, we continue to grow in other select markets like Brazil, South Africa, the CIS markets, all of those, and we will continue our push in emerging markets. The US market is important, but it is also, I think there is potential for much greater growth in the other markets, while US will still remain the largest piece of business.
How will the API supply chain changes, which perhaps are real and they will happen eventually, benefit Dr. Reddy? Because, to get a plant which is an API supplier change and then start the process again, it takes 12 months to 18 months. So in the interim, when this anti-China API Atmanirbhar focus has started by Indian pharma companies, how will that change life for you in 1 year, 3 years and 5 years?
For Dr. Reddys, I think we don't have that kind of a dependence on China. We do have a few products. We will continue to buy from these sources because they're good, not because they're Chinese or Indian. But our dependence on China is only on the basic materials. Advanced intermediates, we have over time started becoming more vertically integrated and bringing in-house or bringing it into India. This is more for flexibility of supply chain as well as cost reasons. As you're aware, costs in China also have been going up post-Olympics, and gradually we have moved some of the important products into India, but some products we continue to buy from them, and I'm sure they are quite reliable, and as long as they're reliable, we'll buy from them. So that's not a major driving force for us. But having said that, many customers want to diversify away their excessive dependence on China. And that could be a good opportunity for Indian API players. And we have to see how long this sentiment lasts. But like you said, because shifting an API from one player to another is not a trivial process.
Fair point. Thank you, sir. Now, if I look at what if I just look at the kind of approvals you've got, your US business is getting better, India business is getting better, that means you would be generating a lot of cash flow. Now, typically in a pharma company, once you invest on R&D and once you invest on capacity, you don't need too much of cash. You've not shied away from making acquisitions in the past. Will there be a conscious move now to use the cash flow which will come from all the approvals and the growth businesses to acquire more?
We are always looking at opportunities to acquire, especially in strategic markets like India and other emerging markets. But we are not compelled to spend our cash on M&A. We do have an aggressive investment plan in R&D as well as in infrastructure, but it's not at the same level as it used to be. We have a lot of capacities built already, but there will be some expansions in our biologics business, in our injectables business, etc. But like you said, I think we are not a very capital-intensive industry, so certainly cash will be useful to drive inorganic growth as and when the opportunities arise.
Let's understand the approval to sell the Russian vaccine in India. What does that mean for Dr. Reddy? And I'm just going to spend one more minute here trying to understand the approval, Mr. Prasad, does not mean that you can sell the vaccine in India. The approval of vaccine is subject to Indian pharma and Indian regulatory approvals, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. So we are responsible in this partnership with RDIF to do the Indian trials, to work with the government agencies in India, register the product and distribute the product. We will have partnerships, the RDIF will have partnerships to contract manufacture the product in India. So our role is really clinical development, regulatory registration and distribution.
So in this vaccine approval, have you already approached the Indian agencies? Have you already given your data and your dossier to explain that why this vaccine is effective? And are you also suggesting that this is a vaccine which has got efficacy?
The science looks good so far. The work that the Russians have done so far, we have diligence. It looks very good. We are in the midst of doing all that you've said, putting the applications together, collecting the data, translating all the documents into English, and preparing our application to the government, which we should be submitting soon.
Mr. Prasad, I have the fortune of tracking Dr. Reddy 20 years ago also, and the most famous thing of Dr. Reddy was innovation and R&D, and there was the first Indian company which moved into the new molecule development. After that, the track for Dr. Reddy has been impeccable. We all know what the focus area of Dr. Reddy is. So let's say from here to next 3 years to 5 years, how much of your existing business will change? How much of your existing business is only going to get disrupted, and how much of the new business which you don't have right now will get added? What will be the future shape of Dr. Reddy? I'm asking you your vision statement to understand that what are the areas you would be focusing on now.
Yeah, good. So in the next 3 to 5 years, the mix won't dramatically change, but you will see significant growth in our India business. Our active ingredients and services business. Our innovation pipeline today will come only post that 3 to 5 year time frame. In the 3 year time frame, there's a possibility we will launch one product, if 1 or 2 products, if the clinical trials are successful. We do have a significant effort in oncology through our 100% owned subsidiary, which we independently manage, called Origin Discovery Technologies. They focus on oncology and other inflammatory diseases. They do have a very interesting pipeline in immuno-oncology space, as well as in other inflammation-driven disease areas such as psoriasis and other autoimmune diseases. But they're all in early stages, early clinical development, and some of them have been partnered, but we do have rights for certain geographies, and maybe Dr. Reddys will approach Origin for marketing those assets. So, but that part of the business which Dr. Reddy our founder used to call the unfinished agenda, will probably take more than 3 years for you to see visible signs of it, and maybe more than 5 years for it to be a significant portion of our business.
Would you be moving into the area of medical stroke diagnostics? When I say diagnostics, I'm not talking about MRI machines, or I'm not talking about CAT scan machines. I'm essentially talking about device stroke diagnostics.
So as of now, we don't have any effort in diagnostics. Whether we will get into it, I cannot. We don't have any plans at this time. We do have ideas to bring innovation to the therapeutic agents, maybe digital services, devices, wearables, things like that. But they're they're just at idea stage today, nothing concrete.
As percentage of your total R&D spend, you have got one of the highest in India. Next 3-4 years, how will that change? Because that's the number which secretly we all of us look at to understand that where the company is innovating. What would be that as percentage of your sales? I'm asking you this why? Because now you will have a lot of cash flows. Either you'll acquire something or you'll have to increase your R&D. That's how Dr. Reddy has been built in the past.
I can't predict what the future will be with that level of granularity, but our percentage of R&D will remain around that 10-11%, between 10 and 12%, depending on how much we spend on clinical development. The big spends will be in clinical, and we haven't done a lot of that in the past. So as cash we get more profits, and as a percentage of the size scale of the company goes up, we will invest that money in some clinical development of our internal pipeline instead of partnering everything out.
Fair point. Closing comments, and this is more like an industry-specific question, Mr. Prasad. I'll not extend my appointment beyond this question. We've really extended our time with you.
No
If
problem.
COVID would have not happened, what are the changes which would have not happened to the pharma industry?
See, the pharma industry is transforming. There are 3 areas that we are transforming. I think one thing is operations are becoming much more digital, like every other industry. So there's a lot of automation, there's a lot of digital happening. COVID just accelerated that. That was one big change. The change of reaching out to doctors physically is now being augmented. We still have physical calls, augmented through digital means. That was also an inevitable change. The whole world is changing to digital. Everything from grocery to taxi ride to food, everything is coming through digital services. So pharma is going to be disrupted digitally. Again, that digital disruption got accelerated because of COVID. So these are the 3 things I see. The crashing of timeline from thinking about it to launching the product has been significantly accelerated by COVID because of the pressure that the patients needed the product. This was something that was unprecedented and amazing that the Indian industry delivered on all these products, getting licenses from innovators, synthesizing the product, formulating it, putting it into the supply chain. This is a speed at which I've never seen in the past. So this is also something new that we saw. Whether it will become normal, I don't know. Whether the regulator will become as cooperative as they were during COVID times, we don't know. Without, of course, compromising patient safety. But these are issues, I think, which COVID taught us about, that we can do a lot more, a lot faster if we have the right support and the right attitude in the companies. So it was the speed with which things got done, the speed of digital transformation, the speed with which innovation is being driven. These were amazing lessons in COVID. It would not have happened without COVID. I can say this.
Also well said. Well, an absolute pleasure, Mr. Prasad, to have you on ET now. While you may not want to comment on what markets are doing, I'm sure shareholders would be excited to see that the stock is at 5,000 at an all-time high. It's been a trailblazing move. And I think that's all getting captured because of the good work what Dr. Reddy has done in the pharma space. So stay safe, sir. And thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
Certainly hope to see much more of you going forward.
Thank you.